man who believed that I died 20 years ago. And I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996, I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone with the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
Sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I'm a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Hello, welcome back to your favorite weekly call-in, conspiracy, parapolitical, whatever you want to call it, call-in show. As always, we're joined by the great, the wonderful, the beautiful Austin Picard. Just throwing some random adjectives every time, just to make no sense. Glad to be with you guys. We have I plan to go through. What do you guys think? What did you guys think of it last week? The guest, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time. We'll have to get another guest. I saw one of you guys clipped a super old clip from the show asking one of the history homos on. We'll have to follow up. I'm more just saying that so I don't forget myself, but we'll have to follow up and get those guys or one of those guys on. Those guys are great, but it is nice, I think, to at least break it up with a little solo. And with that, though, I'm not saying don't call in. I remind you guys, you can call in over at 1-833-722-DAD. That's 3323 if you don't speak in numbers. Or in letters or whatever the hell. You know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say here. But we don't have the lines open. Give it a little while, but you can go ahead and get those numbers dialed up in your phone. Maybe go ahead and save it as your booze. That way you got it ready to hit send later. But Austin, how does it feel? You're kind of in the post-coital state right now. Are you feeling? You seem a lot less stressed out, a lot less manic energy. How you feeling? Are you feeling recharge, a new lease on life, and a new view on the parapolitical world?
Yeah, you can definitely say that. At least there's a certain level where I still feel a little bit hungover from the deep dive, but at the same time, I think it was at this point I'm starting to just feel a little more rejuvenated and refreshed and ready to tackle the next subject, honestly, because that was originally the goal, is to crank out a little bit more of my own content as much as possible. So, but with that being said, I mean, happy Dick Cheney death day, my brother, right? One of the worst among us has finally let's say, I think I agree with Sam. I saw him tweet earlier about how he noticed he was sad about Dick Cheney's death because it sounds like he died peacefully and it wasn't like brutally fucking beaten. I forgot he said like pineapple shoved sideways up his ass or something to that extent. But it definitely seems like, I don't know. It's strange because I noticed that you had even tweeted something about how you were kind of under the Mandela effect.
Yeah, like felt like he's dead. Like at the very least, he was such a level of irrelevant. He was like functionally dead, and he was so old that you don't ever hear about him anymore. That you kind of just assume he's dead, and that's kind of where I was at. And I don't know. I think maybe there's something to be said. I don't know. Maybe there's. I don't know what to say of like kind of slithering off into irrelevance, because for the public consciousness is like, what even is this guy anymore? I mean, I guess there's a part of you that wants you to remember them for their evil, but there I guess there's another part of them that's like, let them, disappear into the dustbin of history. Because it's like, I don't know, to some degree, I think these evil people get off on the evil thinking it'll like make them immortal to some degree. But I don't know. So there's something weirdly satisfying about the fact that we're literally one of the great architects of evil of our modern lifetime, and he died with a large chunk of the world under the assumption he was already fucking dead. So there's something poetic there. I don't know quite how to put my thumb on it, but there's something there.
That's funny. I saw, this is the tweet that Sam said. He said, "I'm sad to hear of the passing of Dick Cheney. I'm sad that he died peacefully and wasn't tomahawk bone hawked to death painfully. I hope all the pineapples get shoved up his ass in hell for eternity." So that I kind of that's as far as that sentiment resonates with me, and I definitely feel like most of these architects of evil, as you put it, they definitely get off far too easy. And I also saw someone tweet about how apparently his genealogy, he's the 8th grandson of an accused Salem witch named Susanna Martin. And so that instantly made me want to do a little bit more of a deep dive into the Salem witch trials at some point. I'm sure it's very interesting as far as that avenue of research. I've never really done much more than kind of as far as like the digging into alternative narratives and things of that nature surrounding the documented events and how they allegedly took place in the historical record, which I find to be right. Even some of the claims that I'm most aware of are basically what the ergot or something in the bread or the wheat at the time essentially caused hallucinations. And that was one of the working theories. I think there's far more to it, obviously, but I always thought that was interesting. But I did see that there's an additional connection to that, and it's from that dude, that lefty guy that seems to be along the similar lines of interpreting modern Gladio in many ways, and seems to be also be a wealth of knowledge and a viable resource. But at the same time, it definitely sides ideologically with the sort of leftist paradigm and interprets modern capitalism as sort of the crux of evil and the problem facing society at large, when obviously it's just a misinterpretation of economics, in my opinion. But still, it's that para-power mapping dude, Connie Pingosh, on Twitter, right? And so
they're sometimes a little bit insufferably gay, to be honest. Dude.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
That as well.
I'm with you.
Whatever.
Right.
But they do great research. I can't emphasize that enough. And I've read all the time my show. It's just those are always the guys yipping at people who aren't faggots and like to have fun. I don't know.
Right.
But I say that in all love. I don't literally care if you're gay.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't either, honestly. If you choose an ideology and you want to hold that near and dear to your heart and soul, and kind of ostracize the outside world, who doesn't associate or affiliate as directly with that line of thought, I think that's a huge mistake. But again, that's just my line of thought, and I am let's just say immune to ideological partisan politics, and I love it. You know what I'm saying? Like I really do. And I feel like that was earned in a certain way, right? And I see so many people kind of falling victim to just the mainlining propaganda that kind of seeps into our algorithmic feeds, no matter where you reside on the political spectrum, and for a good reason, obviously, and that is anyway. So this individual does apparently, someone in the chat just said that he did a pretty great deep dive on the Salem witch trial, so I'll have to try and check that out. But he did mention he responded to that tweet that I had said about the Dick Cheney being the 8th grandson of accused Salem witch Susanna Martin, and said basically, he said, people would be gobsmacked just how many presidents and U.S. VPs are descended from accused Salem or otherwise witches, justices, and townsfolk. And then he lists a few of them. He includes Richard Nixon, Franklin Pierce, both of the Bushes, Gerald Ford, Taft as well, which I thought was interesting. And then he also claims that this includes distant relatives. Upwards of half of U.S. presidents link back to Salem via George Burroughs, who is a far-off cousin of 21 presidents.
Austin, don't put too much thought in it. It was just that the wheat had that weird mold that made them trip. Nothing going on there. Nothing weird. Just
happening?
Nothing to see here. They were just tripping balls, not knowing what they're doing. Old people going, oh no, it's witches, and so we'll just kill everyone. There's nothing deeper going on here.
Dude, this is raising all kinds of red flags. Like, honestly, that he mentions a plethora of celebs as well, filmmakers, writers. You have Disney being implicated in many ways. You have Humphrey Bogart, Hemingway. And so it seems like, what he's pointing to these genealogies that stem back to this.
To be fair, as someone in the chat, Uncle Ted says, there was less than 1 million people in Washington's time. So I guess to be fair, I mean, you could, I don't know. I don't know what point it's significant, but I'm also very much open to the alternative history line of thought there.
Hey,
for
me
sure.
too, buddy.
Yeah,
me too. And I just think knowing what we know now at this point, right, and how kind of insulated by the kind of generational dynastic structure that exists as far as the power structure in general, and the very prominent figures and influential personalities that are thrust upon the general public, it all seems very much manufactured, and also you witness the playbook very much as far as just the avenue of how they come to power. And that in itself is very much something that I think we should all give us all pause at the very least, and make us think twice about how organic a lot of this truly is, right? And
on that note,
every industry.
On that note, here's actually a video I've had saved for a while, and it's like this is kind of perfect to that. Now, obviously, once again, I don't know, this may not mean nothing, but the Sliwa guy, here, and we were talking about parapower mapping, he's quote tweeting himself from an old tweet. He says, I'm like 90% certain Sliwa and his beret. For those who aren't aware, that's like the Republican running in the New York race against Mamdani and Cuomo. Which I'll be honest, I've loved a lot of the clips that have come out from Sliwa from the little bit I pay attention. Pretty funny, right. I'll give him that.
Sure.
And he said, but anyways, he's like, I'm 90% certain Sliwa and his beret were cooked up in a federal field office lab for the express purpose of cribbing BPP and Young Lords community defense fashion, and then psyoping POC use in New York City into volunteering with a cop-friendly, reactionary, vigilante group instead. And watch this to just kind of, he's right on the money.
That's so funny.
I was influenced by the Black Panther Party, by the Young Lords, by the Brown Berets. As you can see, I'm wearing a beret. I studied radical politics coming out of high school. In fact, that's how I ended up marrying my first wife. I was part in Canarsie High School before they finally said goodbye.
Isn't it funny they always studied radical politics and just fucking doing it? But whatever.
There you
Lisa
go.
Evans, right?
Excuse me?
Lisa Evans?
No. See, everyone thinks Lisa was my first wife. My first wife was Corinne Drayton from Brownsville. That's where I was living. She was from St. Croix, the Virgin Islands. Her and her brother Alfred were in this club at Canarsie High School called Angela Davis, George Jackson, and the Soledad brothers. So I was like immersed in that politics, because remember, we're talking early 70s.
Yeah.
And so I was able to sample it all. And I liked the paramilitary look. And I like some of the programs involved, especially the breakfast programs and other things that they were doing in the community. And I saw that for myself.
Go ahead.
Dude, this guy is showing all the signs, right? Like, my God, could you be more of a spook, a sort of plant? But anyway, continue. I got to let my dog out. She's freaking out.
No, you're good. We'll finish it. I mean, it's pretty much, I think that's the crux of it. That's all that matters. We'll finish it for the purpose of it anyways.
Because I was in all these neighborhoods. I was up in Crown Heights. I was in Brownsville. I was in Bed-Stuy. I was in East New York. I lived on Cleveland and New Lots, and then eventually Canarsie. So I basically had fulfilled the trifecta, the Trinity, the Troika. Brownsville, East New York, Canarsie. Boy, and you get a total feel of what the outer boroughs are like. Neglected, never paid attention to. The politicians talk about the outer boroughs, but they don't really do anything for the outer boroughs. And that's why I'm the mayor.
Yeah, I think those are the, when I think about the Guardian Angels, the Black Panther Party, I think that, the community work is the thing that doesn't get discussed enough from both groups. Like you said, y'all taught self-defense classes. I think y'all used to do things with the homeless too, right?
Yeah. Well, we have junior Guardian Angels also in Washington Heights. These are a lot of young boys and young girls could easily form into harm's way with all the influences of gangbangers.
All right. Particularly, I find that particularly interesting. I mean, just like PPM said, he's kind of taken over the. He's kind of like the nice, smiling version of like the old school Black Panthers. That kind of if it's like if the cops were running Malcolm X operation, essentially, is the point. So, which I don't know. Okay, there's some to it. I guess maybe he's preferable to Mamdani. I don't know. I know at least Mamdani won't maybe cuck as much from Israel. Although I will say from the guests I had on this morning, it looks like, for example, I know he's keeping on some spooked out broad in her position. It's already been agreed upon, so it looks like the fix is in. She's like, God, who is it? She's I forget her name. What was her name? Tish. She's like, I forget what commission she's running. But she's one of the ones essentially making it a surveillance hellscape over there, and she's being kept on. She's also the granddaughter of one of the people in the working group, the working group that Whitney Webb talks about. So yeah, she's pretty spooked the fuck up. But yeah, of course. Anyways, so Mamdani, it looks like the fix might be in there too as well. So, I mean, that no matter where you look, the fix is in. But, I mean, what else is new? I did just kind of point out this guy is kind of spooky. I guess if I had to pick one, I would probably go with Sliwa. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it seems like Mamdani, or however you say his name, he definitely has pivoted as far as his language kind of shifted in a way to be more establishment approved, and he already kind of just alluded to the local authorities and the NYPD and officials within that sort of a permanent infrastructure, that he signaled to them that they are safe in more ways than one. And so if we haven't noticed by now, they have full control of the outcome. And I think that that is why I don't really engage much with, I definitely don't vote in any capacity, even locally, just because I'm in LA, what am I going to do? Yeah, like honestly, I have to go on basically a road trip down past Orange County by tomorrow because essentially to avoid a major fee for my tags because of the smog check approval.
Dude, if you're one of those people that's in a state or a region that's like, opposite of whatever yours, and it's like dead gridlocked, like there's no way in fuck it's not turning. Like and you still vote anyways, despite all of that, you just are the absolute worst kind of cuck.
Exactly. That's all I'm
like
saying.
You have so little respect for your time
Mm-hmm.
that you'll just be like, I care that much that there's one more little ticker among the millions of little tickers that they have of all those things that, like, despite the fact it will make no difference towards the end outcome. Right. But there are people with that mind that do that. So,
dude, my wife and I, we went down to like this Halloween event, right, at this theme park that's not too far away, and we're like, it was something we had never done before. I had heard about it for a long time, and so we just wanted to do something fun. And so basically, we're in line for like an hour at one point, and right directly behind us is this gay couple that's just overwhelmingly kind of exercising their their fucking let's just say public displays of affection, right? And it was very interesting, but it's hilarious. I was just thinking in my mind the night before, it came, just the thought crossed my mind. It has to be because of the episode I just covered, right? The Columbine episode. But I will say that this is how I feel anytime I've ever gone to a sporting event or something of that nature, like I go to Staples to see the Lakers or something, and I'm like, man, this is the perfect setting as a priority target for some sort of domestic bombing operation of some kind to maximize casualties. And I had the same thought occurred to me, except that in the form of like a mass shooting event. How would I react in that moment? You know, if a mass shooting sort of broke out at this theme park, and
would you calmly just turn around and walk away like Mikey McCoy, the chief of staff of Charlie Kirk's?
Oh my God, dude. I'm just saying that at this point, I'm not offering up a black pill as far as like telling people what they should do, and in terms of how they exercise their voice or how they view voting in a local election. I'm just kind of presenting my personal opinion at this point as far as the power structure and the paradigm itself, and yeah, I just.
I mean, if you think you're going to effectuate some sort of change in the proper way, I mean, sure. But I think if you think that's the case, you should probably redo your math because you're probably wrong.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, sure, maybe there's some outside case of like some specific legislation in some place. It's like, okay, maybe, but it's like, let's be real. It's probably not that big of a deal. And if you do compare whatever, like the cost to the outcome, I think it's always a loss. It's kind of this game that's just devised for you to lose. So, I mean, whatever, keep voting. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm really not even trying to tell you guys not to. Just, I mean, whatever.
And meanwhile, you know, Palestinians, hide your kids, hide your wives, and hide your husbands because they're raping everybody up in here. That's basically what's going on if you're a detainee as a Palestinian in Israel, right? And just seeing this insane scandal as it comes to fruition and is exposed, kind of in a way, it just really blew me away. Just in terms of the ongoing cover up internally within Israel itself, and how picture perfect as far as the window into this common theme that we witness so very often taking place, right? And this, we are in no way unscathed as far as within the domestic U.S. And I think that we all need to remind ourselves of that as well. And that's why I always just, you know, when you do the deep dives on some of these cases that were allegedly officially solved but never given a legitimate motive of any kind, things of that nature, you have major loopholes in the official context of the cases and the you know, overall conclusions that the kind of just administrators involved in the cover up, right, will reveal to the public. And that is the only thing that we can really do, is spotlight the moments when we have a brief window into how the kind of machinations of power play out, right? And how these cover-ups are legitimately facilitated by the government officials that then seem to have this upward mobility directly after the scandal takes place and they fulfill their role. And then all of a sudden they become career politicians and run for Senate elections and things of that nature. And that happened in Columbine as far as the cover up in regard to just one of the local officials there. And one of the sheriffs, you know, of I think it was El Paso County, actually, the El Paso County Sheriff's Department. I think he was the one. John Sullivan, I think it was. I can't recall at this point. Too many names, but at the same time, it's just deep and dark. This rabbit hole goes, right, and you witness yet again, right off of the back of Columbine, after he successfully helped implement and facilitate the cover up in terms of the Columbine investigation. What does he do? He runs for Senate, right? I mean, he's facing a major scandal at the time as well for that very reason. You had victims' parents suing, you know, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department and local officials as well who were involved. And so this to me is just how it sort of, again, rears its ugly head. And we see it with, I think, earlier today, it was just a few hours ago, there was breaking news about the Israeli Knesset giving preliminary approval, apparently, for this bill that will allow them to execute Palestinian detainees and this includes children. And this is directly after this scandal takes place of the Palestinian detainees being brutally raped and sexually abused to the point of being hospitalized and like on the brink of death, from their brutal, abuse that they endured.
We were joking before the chat or before the show started about how like it'd be, I guess, funny in a really fucked up way if they take this Major General back, the one who leaked the rape video, and just dome pieced her for this, which is kind of in a ridiculous way. That's kind of like what they're opening the door for. Although this would be for Palestinians, I guess. So I guess that person would still get the 2-tier system and they'd somehow get justice. But it is pretty wild, especially there's been a lot of murmurs, particularly I believe even from Ben Gvir, unsurprisingly, kind of talks about how they need to, any chance you get, you should murder these people. And even Ben Gvir, I think, was, doing videos in prisons kind of saying, yada, yada, like these guys should be dead. We shouldn't be paying to keep these guys alive. They should be dead. Like that seems to be the angle. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what is going on too. We're in this weird thing. The past few days, surprisingly, Israel's only murdered like single digits every day, which I know it sounds bizarre to be like, whoa, but like that is a whoa when you're dealing with Israel. So it is like, I don't know what's going on here, yet at the same time they're squirming. While we've been teased before, these sources say, I genuinely still kind of stand by it. Seems like the Trump administration does want this to hold. Now, as I've said many times, I don't want to make this out like I'm some white hat, black hat thing. Yeah, well, okay, yes, they want this to hold, but that's so that their Zionist buddies, like their technocratic friends, can like suck off the remaining life force from this corpse that remains. Like it's not like some great benevolent something or other, but it does seem like they want it to hold. Yeah, at the same time, we have these weird squirmings like shit like this. So I don't know. We could see some weird squirrely shit where it's like, I don't know, they could legit start just fucking murdering Palestinian prisoners that they're still holding. And I don't know what happens at that point once they start just doing like live executions of Palestinian prisoners. I mean, we're already at Bizarro World. We were far past Bizarro World a long time ago. Like, we were past Bizarro World at the Qatari attacks. And it's just like we just keep breaking the glass ceiling of what a bizarre situation we're in, essentially. Just constantly over and over again. So it is like I don't know where this goes. We could see some weird shit right now.
Oh yeah, and I mean, for this top military lawyer to be legitimately jailed after leaking the videos is just proof positive of what happens when you kind of blow the whistle and smear just mud in the face of the powers that be, and I just find it very, very strange. Obviously they already reappointed another military prosecutor, right, to kind of follow the resignation that took place and the individual being jailed, but yeah, I do think it's very interesting timing as far as just coming directly off of the back of this scandal of this rape being exposed, and then instantly you have this public execution bill being pushed through, and I will say, man, just the interesting CNN special report by Wolf Blitzer, I found to be somewhat compelling, which I hate to say, right? Just as far as much as they were willing to cover it, and obviously it's self-serving politically for individuals who reside on the left side of the political spectrum. But at the same time, I just think it's always important to. I thought you would at the very least appreciate this kind of spotlight, and what it does. I think it's important to remind everyone. Obviously, most people are firmly entrenched on whichever side they have chosen by now. But in terms of this conflict, but at the same time, any wiggle room, any budging that we can possibly kind of administer on our own, as far as some of these just degenerate and sinister details. You know what I mean? And in terms of the power paradigm and the individuals who are implementing every level and layer of this foreign policy agenda. It's important for us to just share that as much as we possibly can, honestly, is how I feel. And so just let's watch at least the beginning of this real briefly, if you don't mind, and then we can pivot to I guess we're going to war with Venezuela. By the way, did you see Trump's new plan? He's apparently, this just was announced that he's weighing his options as far as Venezuela.
Because last I heard this morning, they were still in like we're not doing anything.
Not now, dude. They just bombed their 17th boat. Apparently, that just happened, and then now
did you watch the video of this last one? Was this one grainy too? Like super grainy to where you couldn't even make it out?
100%, dude.
Because the last one was too. Unless you're like watching the one I saw from like the other day. I think there was one yesterday, the one before, but they're coming so quick. But I think I'm kind of curious if there's something to that. Like, because now in the last one, they did this weird thing where it was almost like they like blurred it out as if it was like nipples or something. Like the boat itself, like you can't even see the fucking boat. You're like, this literally could just be somebody like lighting a match above their nipple, but like it's really close. You know what I mean? Like, there's no. I don't even know that it's water. That's a boat.
Right.
Like it's such shitty, just blurry shit on a screen. They're like,
right. Well, I'm telling you, man. There was a whistleblower recently, right? You saw that report on the CIA-backed mercenary group that was apprehended and arrested in Venezuela and detained while they were captured in the midst of planning a false flag operation in Venezuela, and this is very much a part of Marco Rubio's kind of wet dream as far as the agenda he's been pursuing for years at this point. Honestly, he really has been trying to overthrow Maduro for quite some time, and so we just are again seeing the war drums beating for regime change in Venezuela, and the usual suspects, right? The very prominent assets that have been strategically put into place within the Venezuela and the structured kind of political paradigm at play as far as the opposition candidates and things of that nature solely benefit the West and the agenda playing out as far as just entirely exploiting the natural resources of Venezuela specifically, which obviously, man, we cannot deny that this is par for the course of the agenda of the economic hitmen, right? And this is the age-old playbook just being recycled once more. But let's watch this real briefly, and then we'll pivot. This is so strange, dude.
Newly published footage from inside a notorious detention facility appears to show Israeli soldiers sexually assaulting a Palestinian detainee. CNN's Jeremy Diamond has our report, and we want to warn you, you may find it disturbing.
This is a rare look inside Israel's notorious Sde Iman detention facility. In CCTV footage obtained by Israel's Channel 12 News, masked Israeli soldiers select one of more than 24 Palestinian detainees lying on the ground and take him away. Behind a wall of shields obstructing the view of security cameras, the soldiers allegedly sodomized the detainee. Their victim was taken to a hospital in life-threatening condition, with injuries to his rectum and upper body, according to Physicians for Human Rights Israel. Weeks after the early July incident, military police detained 9 soldiers on suspicion of aggravated sodomy, abuse, and other misconduct. 4 have been released, but a military court extended the detention of 5 others, saying there is reasonable suspicion they abused the detainee. It marks an extraordinarily rare pursuit of accountability at the Sde Iman facility.
For months now, there have been allegations of torture, of abuse of these Palestinian detainees, but this is the first time that Israeli soldiers have actually been detained and are now set to be tried for these allegations.
Unfortunately, it's not a one-off incident. The information we are gathering on the ground indicates that there are several cases, at least 10 cases that we know of people who were sexually abused in Sde Iman alone.
Why is this the case that is resulting in these 9 soldiers being detained for questioning and potentially about to be indicted?
This got out. This person was hospitalized in a civilian hospital where doctors and nurses and other staff members could see what happened to the person while he was incarcerated in Sdei Teiman. So the information leaked out. And I don't think the military or other apparatuses in Israel were able to keep it silent anymore.
The right-wing blowback has been swift and ferocious. A few weeks ago, hundreds of protesters, including members of parliament, stormed Sdei Teiman and the base where the accused soldiers were being held. And in Israel's parliament, debates like this ensued.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו.
אוקיי,
הכל.
הכל. זה מה שרציתי.
הכל, האנשים האלה, אתה יודע מה עשו?
אוקיי.
At the Beit Lid military base, where the accused soldiers faced their first hearing, their family members decry their arrest.
Today it's my brother, yes. Today it's them. But tomorrow it's his brother, her sister, his father. Here, this is our red line. We are here to stand and to talk and to say that this is not allowed anymore. We are not allowed to investigate our soldiers. We are not allowed to let any Nukhba talk or to ask him, did you get a good time in our prison?
Her brother, who she says is innocent, has been released for the time being. The allegation that Sdei Teiman's detainees are Nukhba terrorists, the commandos who led Hamas's October 7th attack, is the basis for nearly every defense of abuses at the facility. It doesn't hold up.
The military released a third of the people it arrested and incarcerated in Sdei Teiman, realizing they have no connection to military action or to Hamas. They were detained, tortured, and then released without charge back to Gaza.
And Wolf, the Israeli military declined to comment on that surveillance footage from inside that Sdei Teiman facility, but it's just the latest piece of information pointing to rampant alleged abuses at that facility. Earlier this week, Israel's High Court actually convened to consider a petition to close down that facility altogether. They've given the Israeli government 10 days to provide more information about conditions at that facility.
That guy, by the way, I covered that on the morning show. He actually, the one in question actually was not charged. So he was not. Well, despite the fact the initial reporting was, he was one of the Nakba fighters. What they mean by that is he was one of the people in there. So obviously by him being there, they're assuming he's a Nakba fighter, but they have a tradition of just rounding these people up without any actual charges and keeping them for fucking weeks or months on end. Till whenever they just arbitrarily decide to release them. Well, he was one of the ones who never received charges. So, he just got raped for no good reason, as if it would have been okay if he was a Hamas fighter or something. But
exactly,
yeah,
and it's hilarious because not obviously not the circumstances of this case, but just the kind of strange ties to these interesting dual threats that seem to be very much proven loyal to not only the CIA but the Mossad as well. And I think that this is some sort of joint operation of destabilization internationally in scope, and this has been par for the course, and very much I think that ultimately the leadership in Israel will have to change as far as the consequences that will take place following, I think, a lot of the just foreign policy scandals that have accumulated over the course of this conflict. I think Netanyahu will essentially play as the just the puppet on the stake that's being burned right publicly, and this will at least satisfy the low hanging fruit, let's say low frequency general public, informed, not very much kind of committed to understanding the conflict as it really has manifested, right? And any of the pretext of any kind is kind of misunderstood and lost in translation, and that is very much deliberate as far as just kind of the perfect recipe that they've really put together as far as the propaganda itself. It's blurring the lines between religion and politics, and that is by design. And I think that is what creates this, over emotional fervor. Individuals can't seem to just come to terms with reality itself, and instead they find themselves in the spiritual battle, bogged down in the thing, just details that don't necessarily apply, right, to the modern power structure and the paradigm itself. And we witness these usual suspects and strategic assets at play in many of these foreign conflicts, and that includes Venezuela, right? And this call to arms, as far as Trump specifically, I believe it just came out. Antiwar.com posted it just a couple hours ago, I believe, and it was essentially claiming that Trump himself reported from the White House that basically he's weighing options for launching a war with Venezuela. And the options would include bombing military facilities, sending special operations forces to kill or capture Maduro, or sending troops to capture airfields and oil fields. So obviously you see what's at stake here. And I think that just understanding, if you remember, I believe it was in context of Venezuela whenever he was out of office after his first term. And essentially, he gave a public statement where he claimed that all the chips were essentially stacked in the West's kind of strategic, just kind of in their strategic corner, and basically that this was in an effort to regime change in Venezuela, perform a regime change in Venezuela, and that basically everything had been perfectly stacked for that agenda to play out. And then he had to leave office, and basically they could have tapped into all these untapped oil resources and these natural resources that are not being, I guess, properly exploited by the Venezuelan government as far as benefiting the West. I think is more the perspective we should view it at. Just I think it is interesting and important to definitely look at this conflict through that lens, is what I'm trying to say. And so we have this woman who drafted a letter, and she is the opposition candidate, right? MaríaCorinaMachado, and she's the individual we had talked about when Elon was basically he was calling for a coup, right, of Maduro, and he was naming her specifically as the opposition candidate. And she is so obviously a strategic asset of the intelligence apparatus, especially in terms of benefiting the West, that it's absurd. I mean, she's not only announcing a fire sale on the natural resources of Venezuela itself, but she's legitimately claiming. Now, in the 2018 letter that she drafted to Netanyahu personally, she was calling for intervention. Right, we're desperate for Israeli intervention, and obviously that would include the U.S. military to some extent, and that was her kind of call to action. And this all was happening as early as 2018, and I know that they were putting together these plans at the very least to come to fruition in 2016. Right, it was definitely on the short list, of agenda items and at play. And so anyway, she claims she just has been doing this crazy media tour as this war heats up and the war drums beat on. She's doing a media tour and essentially claiming
latest on Bloomberg, calling for intervention, basically.
Absolutely. And
saying
she says
Hamas and Hezbollah are over here fucking human trafficking, drug trafficking, all the things. They're narco terrorists or something.
Exactly. Let's check every box, please, Maria. This doesn't echo any of the same sentiment of the Zionist Israeli Mexican president, the first female. You know what I mean? That is perfectly installed just before we kind of have this war with the cartels playing out. At least the cartels that aren't entirely controlled, I would think. is more kind of choosing the winners and losers of the power structure in Mexico. And because we know the longstanding strategic outcome of Operation Fast and Furious and things of that nature, and even Cartel Land, that I think it was an Alex Gibney doc back in the day, where he documented and stated how, on video, we're talking video evidence, right, of members of the Mexican cartels cooking up methamphetamine on behalf of a CIA operation where they're helping facilitate the meth across the border into the domestic U.S. And so if that hasn't been the long-standing strategic goals of the intelligence community, as far as lining the pockets of the black budget, things of that nature, and not, as well as their own, right, which is just operationally speaking a part of the just kind of, it's just par for the course in many ways, and we're witnessing so much of this corruption play out and be exposed kind of in broad daylight at this point, and that's affecting all different sort of industry, including athletics, right, and the major professional sports industry, and is blowing my mind, honestly, how much is, because apparently there was an internal investigation conducted by the NBA prior to all of this happening or being publicly exposed, and the FBI conducting their own investigation, where they had already kind of passed and cleared Terry Rozier, who's one of the obvious candidates for clearly throwing games, right? Like in the middle of the game, just making ridiculous plays that no professional would ever, especially someone of Terry Rozier's stature. Like, not saying he's a great a basketball player as far as just like he's not elite in the context of the NBA, but he's definitely a very legitimate player, right? That serves a real prominent role on the team, and for him to have thrown games in these pivotal moments, and done it so just blatant and obvious is kind of hilarious, especially in hindsight after the fact. There's compilations that are just so hilarious to watch, but yeah. It kind of blew my mind that over the weekend there was another scandal that went public, and it's in the context of the UFC. Mm-hmm. And this makes sense because there were questions, I think last year, of another fight that took place, but they seem to kind of counter any of the criticism with some sort of credible claims in regards to that original fight. I forget which one that was originally, but anyway, this specifically is definitely lacks all, as far as like, it's very clear and obvious that this was a setup and a fixed fight, and that this individual fighter was in on throwing the fight, because even individuals who trained with him, and this is Isaac Dolgarian is his name, right? And he's a UFC fighter who's kind of a young up and comer, but from all the sentiment and statements coming from training partners in the gym, like he was elite, right? Like I'm talking, he's destroying Corey Sandhagen and like prominent like championship, pedigree fighters, right? That he's destroying in the gym. And then he goes out and gets tapped in the first round in like a ridiculous performance that Paul Felder and like Daniel Cormier, who were broadcasting at the time during the fight, were like questioning, like, dude, this looks like white belt shit. Like this guy in no way, would perform just as far as just in if you're comparing it to his prior fights, like there's absolutely no way that this was an organic and genuine kind of outcome. And so, yeah, it looks like they're facing a legitimate gambling scandal. And this dude was released over the weekend as well. And it seems like all this unusual betting activity, right? The betting lines were they shifted drastically just before the fight took place. So obviously, some sort of fix was in, and people were well aware for such significant shifts to take place in the odds. And so anyway, this has prompted the FBI to begin an investigation. So we'll see what comes of that. But again, it seems to Yeah, so they shifted so dramatically. He went from a minus 250 to a minus 154 just before the fight took place, which is incredible as far as sports betting odds are concerned. And so yeah, that prompted all these sports books to halt the betting right on the match due to this irregular pattern that was occurring in the waging as far as just the wagering of the odds and the fight itself. And so he's like I said, he's released from the UFC. So it looks like this couldn't possibly be entirely isolated, honestly. And that was what I heard someone when there was a MMA reporter. Exactly. An MMA reporter came out and said that he's not going on the record with any sources yet as far as the names are concerned, because obviously they're worried about any kind of repercussions that would take place by the promotion. Because if you come out and blow the whistle on your own promotion, the UFC, and right, because apparently they even went up to Isaac before the fight because there was prior knowledge where they had heard all of these rumors, and they went up to him in the back before the fight took place and said, "Hey man, is this true?" And he assured them, obviously, no, it's not true whatsoever. And then the fight went on. So it's like, imagine being the UFC and not actually just calling that fight off in the moment, honestly, at that point, because just as far as trying to, now there would obviously be a lot more, I guess, interest would be kind of in the reason why the fight would have been called off. It would have instantly drawn attention in a way, but at the same time, the point being ultimately is that other fighters allegedly reached out to these MMA journalists and claimed, like, no, this has happened to me, many times in the past, where I've been approached and by an individual who says, "Hey, will you take $100,000 to lose in this round by this way specifically?" And and they obviously, the ones who have made these allegations, and they clearly have claimed they resisted or rejected the offer. But who's going to claim that this actually took place when they accepted the offer? And if you're thinking, and this applies to the lower level fighters, because this was an Apex card. So if you consider the idea, right, like the Apex, there's a lot less. It's not really open to the public. It's kind of a private event more so. A lot of the fighters' friends and family are there, and then you have to pay a shitload to be one of the fans in attendance if you actually want to go to an Apex event, because it's far more intimate as far as just the venue itself. But that would be because it's obviously not broadcasting as much, almost like a fight night type of card that's not going to go as viral whenever it's taking place, and people aren't going to be paying as much attention. And so that would be an easier fight on the undercard of one of those fights to fix one of those fights. And that was kind of the concept that was playing out here, is that no, they're not prioritizing and targeting like championship fighters who are doing very well in the promotion itself. They're targeting young and up and coming fighters who are on the undercards, who aren't making much money. I mean, consider the idea. It's like, think 10-10 in the UFC so it's like $10,000 to show and $10,000 if you win, I think. And then you're up for a bonus, I guess, if you perform great in terms of the card itself. But still, even that, as a professional fighter, that's not that much pay for, as much as a 6-month camp, let's say. You know what I mean? So 2 payments of $10,000 if you fight twice a year, like, that's really not a whole lot. You're putting a lot on the line. And so how many of these fighters would be open and willing to considering that as far as kind of an out? Okay, well, $100,000 to throw a fight, and okay, I'll let this guy rear naked choke me in the first round. Who gives a fuck? Who knows? Anyway.
Exactly. But it's all fake and gay, I guess. Even the one thing. I don't know. I've been a one of those people. I went through my making fun of sports ball, and then now phase. And then I go for let people enjoy things. But deep down inside, my real thoughts are, sports ball is fucking gay, and it's like, it's kind of just it's It's like some Ted K, like what's it called? The whatever activities, a surrogate activity type shit. That's what it is. You're like you're trying to find some power process nonsense. That's what it is. It's like which whatever if that's what your thing is and you are willing to accept that, that's fine. But it does seem to be a big waste of fucking time. It is pretty dumb.
It is super gay to put a grown man's
but
name on
at
it
least
like
with fighting, it's like I can at least have a straight through. Like I think from watching this, it gives me a better chance in my real life. If someone steps to me, I'm more likely to fuck you up. So there's something going. Obviously, I mean, you got to actually work out and learn fighting. But something about being in there, studying it, it'll help. So. But I think with that, I think we're probably at a pretty good time to do to transition over to the second portion of the show. The phone lines are open right now over at 1-833-722-DEAD. That's 722-3323. Call into the show. We're gonna go to intermission, but take this time to think about stuff to talk about, to call in, whatever. Phone lines are open, so you can call in even the intermission. So you can talk to our wonderful phone screener, tell them what you want to talk to us about. But call in. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. Enjoy this beautiful intermission.
John F. Kennedy Jr. He was declared the front runner for the New York Senate seat back in 1999. Days later, his plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and his rival, Hillary Clinton, was elected senator. Mary Mahoney was a Clinton White House intern. She knew enough of the inner workings of Bill's sexual advancements to be a star witness during the Clinton impeachment trial. She was brutally executed at a Starbucks museum in 1997. In 1993, White House counsel Vince Foster was found dead in Fort Larson Park near D.C. He supposedly killed himself, and among a lengthy list of potential foul play, the bullet was never found. In those days of legal, a key witness for White House prosecutors. He was serving his 3-year sentence for bank fraud at the Fort Worth Federal Medical Center in Texas. And just before he was to give a testimony before the grand jury, McDougal suffered a heart attack in solitary confinement. In 2015, Walter Stein, a White House staff hired under Bill Clinton, joined the list. His body was found at the bottom of a river, nearly 2 miles from the base of the trail he was reportedly hiking. An autopsy determined that Stein's death was accidental drowning, but he might have known his whole life. 27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Riggs was shot and killed in D.C. this year. There is speculation that he was the source of a controversial leaked email allegedly sent by DNC staffers, and that he may have been murdered in retaliation. Then Sean Lucas, a lead attorney in a fraud case against the DNC, was found lying on the bathroom floor by his girlfriend when he returned home on August 2nd. His death was fully classified.
Blackjack Pizza, I think definitely local trenchcoat mafia, properties in the area as well, which were party houses used as recruiting tools, where adult leaders of the upper echelon membership of the TCM that had actually taken the blood oath and had, cut their forearms as the ritual, which I also fucking found out. And then I'll shut up and let you talk, Doc. But I swear, this was very strange to me. It seems like there's a potential reality where once a Manchurian or an individual who has prior programming and is waking up to certain layers of their programming, then essentially they have a fail-safe in that they insert into the programming at a certain layer, and this will trigger the Manchurian to self-harm, to eliminate the I guess returning memory, which is very interesting as far as I was concerned. As just psychologically, strategically, it's a very strange aspect, but it makes a lot of sense concerning just the idea of how you program a Manchurian candidate. And
John Jr.'s brother. He and Vice President Bush's son, Neil, are friends. They had planned to have dinner together in Denver tonight. The plans have been canceled. Donut shop near the motel was visited by Hinckley, who reportedly waited for a phone call near each day, even though he had a phone in his hotel room. The nature of the call is not known.
According to his aides, till the president returns, George Bush will be in charge.
Of radicalization pipelines that have been perfectly entrenched and implemented in modern society. And that does apply to these online chat rooms and Discord groups and things of that nature. And I do think, and I was talking to Jacob about this privately the other day, I think, just about the idea or the concept of let's say you have a spook or some sort of handler or psychological operator, very much, let's say he's putting himself into a position where he creates a private Discord chat room, and then he lures in individuals who fit a certain profile that would be willing and suggestible enough, to take that bait. And then they find themselves in a private Discord room with some sort of psychological warfare, mind war operative. And then let's say he presents a few different clips or videos to this individual, which is layered and with subliminal messaging that could potentially, just, let's say, just trigger your subconscious mind and implement some sort of strange layered programming to a certain level, and then be reinforced by various strategic. You see what I mean? It's like that seems very plausible to me. I think.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about our Patreon group chat. That's like, there's literally one or one of the tabs is the fucking is the book club or whatever, and it's just a bunch of different downloadable. Just realized I was muted. We back, baby. What's up? What's up? All right. We're in the second half of the show. This is where we bring on the patrons. Typically, we usually leave the phone lines on. Now, the current format is phone lines open throughout the whole show, or kind of towards the beginning, and we had some technical difficulties. So only second half. So patrons and callers, you both can come on. So any of you guys in the back are welcome to join. I see a slew of you hanging out back there. I know a number of you don't really want to come on and talk. You just like to hang out in the private chat in the back, so you can be exclusive like that. But if any of you want to come on, you can. Otherwise, we'll raid around for calls. I think maybe one good topic to kick around while we wait for perhaps a call-in or one of the patrons to join us, Austin, is I've had this saved actually for probably like well over a week. It just never really fell in place to kind of become part of like a segment for the show, and I just didn't want to cover it by itself. But I figure it's worth a minor topic, kind of a start the second half of the show off type deal. But I don't know if you've been following the royal mumbo jumbo with the Epstein stuff. Well, I think it was like a week or so ago, Prince Andrew got a bunch of his titles removed. Well, but they still held on to the big one. He's still Prince or whatever. I think it was Thursday. The old king said, "Fuck that, no more nothing." So he's not Prince anything at all. We were actually talking before the show that it's interesting that. Well, what is he now that he's not Prince Andrew? Well, he's Andrew Mountbatten, which you did a whole episode on the significance of Mountbatten, which is the name, the royal name, and that's the king's name. Yeah, that's the. And
it's called the Anglo-Irish Vice Ring, right? The AVIR or AIVR is what it's called, and Lord Mountbatten was definitely a prominent member, right? And it seems like,
to be clear, that's the king's brother, the current king's brother, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And man, he was the supreme Allied commander of Southeast Asia as well, right? He wasn't just some nobody in terms of the royal family and their kind of just the British aristocracy. What's up, Dana? And just the British royal aristocracy and kind of just the obvious political puppets that were installed to help facilitate the overall agenda. Because I'm not claiming that Lord Mountbatten was some sort of legitimate kind of strategic commander that was providing any real just I don't know how, just any real kind of strategic service, right? I think he was much more just raping young boys during his time as the Allied commander of Southeast Asia, or Supreme Allied Commander, I should say. But anyway, the Mountbatten dossier, I encourage everyone, if you at least make sure you go in with the knowledge and understanding that it's going to get very dark and sinister as far as the sexual proclivities playing out in terms of Lord Mountbatten himself and what was taking place. Because if you understand what the Anglo-Irish Vice Ring is, it's a legitimate establishment and collection of pedophiles, right? Child molesters, just sadists, and they even abuse their own children. And that was something that, in the context of Kinkora, it made a lot of sense to me. How so many of these cases have played out, and the Adam Lanzas or James Holmeses of the world, right? Or even the Eric Harris, let's say, that seem to fit this perfect profile in regard to military intelligence connections, genealogically, and it's in regard to their families. And but for him to be a NATO commander in the Mediterranean, right? That's the admiral of a major fleet, and later becomes the chief of the defense staff, right? I mean, this guy was not a nobody, right? And so the FBI, man, they compiled an entire a set of documents and files called the Mountbatten dossier. And I encourage everyone to go and read that, if only to provide themselves with a legitimate window, and credible window at that, into how these sinister networks have legitimately been established and also exercised upon the general public, and we've become our children have become priority targets of prey. In regard to these networks of predators, and man, it's just like talk about extremely low morals and ethical, kind of low points.
It's an inside look at what's going on with the Royals. I think it's particularly interesting. The reason why I bring the Mountbatten, obviously, it's interesting because it's like, what do you call him now? He's Andrew Mountbatten. But obviously, also, as I was trying to drive at, this guy's his uncle. Like, that's literally like, when people stereotypical, like, haha, you got diddled, it's like, oh, your uncle diddled you. Like, that's literally like the go-to. Like, obviously, I don't know that anything happened there. But my point being, and this is a guy that he had reports, I went to some sort of like prep school or boarding school or something, and there were reports of him losing his virginity at like 11, being taken as like a young boy by adult men to be getting like massages and stuff. So these are people that live a different sort of life. And it is kind of interesting that now we see this craziness with the Prince Andrew thing, but it's like there was other stuff behind behind the scenes. What's up, Shy? It's good to have you joining us. What's up, bud? You got anything to add to the conversation? You just want to shoot the shit?
Yeah, just shoot the shit. I did want to ask, are you guys familiar with Project Often or MKOFTEN?
Oh yeah, buddy.
MKOFTEN.
Yeah.
Jog my memory. It sounds familiar.
So it's like the offshoot of MK Ultra. So it's like the second half of it, and it's more from the spiritual side. So that was probably where the Temple of Set and everything started to become established. You know, I was just thinking about how, like, you know, because under that they were claiming that aliens were actually spirits. They weren't really aliens; they were spirits and stuff, like archangels or demons, whatever, in the sky. And it is interesting how, like, a lot of our planets are named after gods and all that stuff. And
No shit, right?
even the names they use with the space programs, and then the drawing of
pop culture too, buddy. You
what's
know,
that?
pop culture too. Just in video games, man. Like it's overwhelming how many of these deities are represented, and you know, and imagine kind of these ideas and these deities being entrenched into the subconscious minds of young children. I was playing those games, man, where I forget, man, even a recent game as a good example was Borderlands 3, right? And it goes so woke and gay with the conceptual outline of the plot of the game itself, right? Just the plot line of the game. And yeah, there are occult deities that you have to fight, that and the main boss. Hold on, let me pull up what the main boss is, because it's escaping me. Go ahead and continue talking though.
No,
I'm
but
sorry.
you're definitely onto, like, a lot of those video games, especially when I be looking up like old gods and stuff.
Mhm.
That if you look it up in the internet, the first thing's going to come up with, oh, that's a character from this video game. So yeah, they do it a lot in video games.
100%.
You got Rotting Jewels. There's a good argument that MK often incorporate a lot of Aztec practices, specifically heart extraction, like the Hand of Death cult, particularly. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, they were going into everything, looking at voodoo, everything. You know, they were trying to and it's just interesting that, like, oh, you guys familiar with The Exorcist, right? The original Exorcist is based on a true story. Okay. And it wasn't a girl, it was a guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That guy wound up growing up and working for NASA and creating, like, the anti-gravitational shit that supposedly got us into space. Without that dude, NASA wouldn't have done shit.
That's so funny. So I found it. So basically, Typhon was the god that I was referencing, and essentially it's this ancient Greek, right? As far as this Typhus, what Typhus was also a reference, but
He was like the monster of monsters, Typhon.
Yeah, exactly. He was a monstrous serpentine giant and one of the deadliest creatures in Greek mythology, and apparently was the son of Gaia and Tartarus. And apparently one source has Typhon as the son of Hera alone, while another makes Typhon the offspring of Kronos. Typhon and his mate Echidna were the progenitors of many famous monsters. Apparently, Typhon attempted to overthrow Zeus for the supremacy of the cosmos. So this is firmly entrenched.
It must be vicious, because that's definitely, it's got to be where we get the word python from. You know what I'm saying? Python, think of something
And they're
different.
pointing out here, Set is often interchangeable with Typhon too. I don't know if anyone of you guys mentioned it. So yeah.
Well, isn't that always the case? And also there's a Tyrene, who's the ultimate final boss in that very same video game, who is called Tyrene the Destroyer, and she appears during the final mission. And apparently, she emerged from she merges with a cosmic entity known as the Destroyer in her quest for godhood, and so this seems to be. As far as like the Destroyer in her quest for godhood is apparently the entity that she merges with. And so again, this is the reference is Tyrene becomes the God Queen, and her followers are known as the children. And so that in itself is is interesting, right? And I don't think in any way that's just a convenient coincidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in Nordic, so like there was a Tyr, or Ty's Tyr, that was
Mhm.
supposed to, like, the god before.
Tyr, that's the Norse god of war.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
He was the one who stuck his hand in the mouth of the beast.
Of Fenrir, the like all devouring like end of times wolf, essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mhm.
My God,
I'm sure
dude.
there's some sort of symbolism of like the end times. And I don't know, I'm assuming it's probably his right hand if I had to guess. Some of the chat, Uncle Ted, I thought this was interesting. This is something that's kind of been running through my mind. It says, what's wild to me is how all of these shooters are so well documented with either a diary or a blog. Well, now I went. These are obviously aren't shooters that I'm in, but a little bit, but behind the paywall right now, I guess a little bit of a plug here. I have one that's already done. Actually, I'm waiting on some like minor editing that Jacob will help me out with, but it'll probably be dropped in a couple weeks. But it's basically done. So if you're a patron, you can see it. You'll be able to tell one of the video portions I messed up. Tried to do it myself, so I'll just have to edit it. It's nothing major. But anyways, point being, I'm doing these like short little. I'm trying to go like 45 minutes or less, little like snapshots of like currently I'm trying to go through. I did my Ian Watkins episode a while ago. It's kind of similar to that, but instead I'm thinking about maybe doing like a series or program to kill stories. And I already have done the Charles Nigg and Leonard Lake one, which was where they were abducting like families and women, and then they were like taking videos and like documenting everything as they like did what looked like, you know, some MK Ultra type shit to these women. And then also currently working on Robert Berdella, the Kansas City Butcher. And he was taking men. He was a gay man who was essentially luring men in and then drugging them and then like abusing them and like, but then would try to like really horrific abuse. But then he was like kind of also then like sort of doing like MK Ultra stuff, almost as if he was trying to make them into like his like slave or something.
Right.
But point being is between both of these, obviously with the videos were the big thing with the Leonard Lake ones. There were videos of each one of it, and it was very like formulaic and like what you would think like literally like a sanitized like MK Ultra experiment type shit. Like it had that weird feel to it. And then with the Berdella ones, he literally like almost as if it was like medical. Like I've looked at these, and it's like little like shorthand notes, like using like EKG is for like as like shorthand for and this is the time in which I applied electrical shock and this is what it did to him, and like to a crazy weird degree, like documenting the torture, the responses, like all of these sorts of things, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? It makes it even weirder. I think with Berdella, I think it was like around 8-ish maybe that he ended up getting with, but there was like something like over 25 different men they found in the photos.
Dude, it reminds me of Jeffrey Dahmer, honestly. And somebody just brought up the name Dahmer. Was Dahmer anything like that? Yeah, absolutely. And we were just talking on whatever this is. Sam brought up the fact that Dahmer, basically there was a story of this comedian that he knows, this female comedian that he was talking about, that apparently, I think it was her father. I think her dad was living in Wisconsin, went to a bar and was just hanging out at this bar, and this dude fucking grabbed his dick, right? Just came up, started fondling his genitals. And he basically like freaked out, started trying to fight this dude, and the guy gets kicked out. And and Sam tells me that this comic told him that apparently it was Jeffrey Dahmer, because whenever Jeffrey Dahmer was exposed publicly, her dad was like, that's the dude in the Wisconsin bar that came up and grabbed me by my dick. And I thought it was so funny. I was like, man, Jeffrey Dahmer was out there running that Kevin Spacey game. You know what I'm saying? But it also, that reminded me of Namrock. Namrock hit me up just recently, and he tipped me off to this connection to Jeffrey Dahmer, which fits the pattern of if you remember what Detective James Rothstein was claiming while he was investigating the Son of Sam case, right, and all the different scandals happening in Untermeyer Park in upstate New York at the time, and he's following this network after they uproot from upstate New York and head west, and he claims that there was a strong representation in Wisconsin and in the Great Lakes area, right? He's talking about how they were apparently utilizing this. There was like a pipeline set up to Canada where they were trying to free Native American children who were being sadistically abused sexually on one of the reservations, which was essentially
that's a big theme in Canada.
Yeah, for real. And so there was like members of the Catholic or like members of the Catholic Church who were aware of higher echelon members of the clergy itself who were helping facilitate. Yeah, no shit, right? They're like working with investigators to try and tip them off and help rescue some of these kids through this just some sort of pipeline that they had set up into Canada where they could get these kids evacuated from their situation. But interestingly to me, obviously, when Namrock hits me up, is that Dahmer apparently spent a year in Florida when he got out of the army, right, in the early 80s. And then he gets caught in apparently he got caught by a bunch of people who were witnesses in the Walsh case, the Adam Walsh case, who was this kid that got his head removed from his body, right, was decapitated, and his head was found 3 days later. It's very strange, the Adam Walsh abduction in case, and in terms of just this Florida abduction, I believe it was, and his head was found like 3 days later. And I can't remember if that was the same case that was caught up in with the Hand of Death cult or not. I honestly can't. But at this point, I'll have to look back at my sources honestly and reflect.
Side thought, but retread that. What do you think was going on with the head? Because I'm just asking because this is a fucked up thought that crossed my mind. But Burdella had heads too. I think he had two heads. I think at one point he had one head, and then he ended up moving it to like the garden, and then swapped it out with another head or something, if I recall correctly. I forget the sequence of heads, but at one point he had a head, and I think he even had like sitting out. And then I just got to think of it, like his crimes are very sexual in nature, and you're like, oh shit, that's gross. But like, was he just fucking that head? Like, I kind of think like maybe there's a reason why these guys are just keeping, like, whenever you hear about cannibals and keeping heads or this or that, you're like, I know it's a fucked up thought, but you mean, like, let's be real, you can probably squeeze out another week out of fucking if you keep the head. So like,
hey, buddy, you ever remember?
It's a sick way to look at it, but
dude, during Halloween, I went back and watched Jeepers Creepers again because it's one of my favorite, and I always forget that it's a fallen angel. It's literally a Nephilim, the monster in Jeepers Creepers. And I always found it interesting that when he removes the head, he just decapitates one of the officers who are like, escorting the two main characters, the brother and sister, to I can't remember where they were going, but either way, taking them to some sort of safe place, or maybe even going to the residence itself for some sort of investigation, but I don't think so. But either way, he decapitates this dude, and he starts to eat the head by its tongue, right?
Yeah.
And that's how he starts to eat it by its tongue. And I always thought that was interesting because I'm just like, now naturally you would imagine if you're a cannibal, it would probably be one of the best entry points. And I also think that that the tongue itself is symbolic in a way. But I will say it was Otis Toole who I think was a part of the Hand of Death cult in the Henry Lee Lucas case. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who claimed that they sacrificed Adam Walsh. And I remember I covered that in my Process Church episode, right, on the Son of Sam case, when I was just kind of like viewing it through the lens of the Process Church at the time. So shout out, Dana, I appreciate you. And yeah, that was the connection I made as well, that Otis Toole had essentially confessed to that murder and severing the head of Adam Walsh. But I wouldn't at all just eliminate the possibility that Jeffrey Dahmer could have potentially been involved. Because if we know anything by now, by studying the Odyssey Foundation, the Delta Project, viewing it through John Wayne Gacy and John David Norman and the Wayne Williams network with Dean Corll in Houston, I mean, what was happening there? John Wayne Gacy is legitimately, just as far as like one of the alleged perpetrators in the abduction of Johnny Gosch. And so if that is possible, then why would Jeffrey Dahmer not have potentially been involved if, according to Detective James Rothstein, he was a part of the Process Church network at the time, right? That was the sinister, just as far as their sinister involvement in abducting children for various occult ritualistic purposes. More than that, obviously, organ harvesting, pedophilic networking, where they were clearly offering up these sexual proclivity subscription models to pedophiles and things of that nature, and Paducah Magazine and all these various publications. But what Namrock said was that essentially that there were witnesses in the Walsh case, basically, and that identified Dahmer, right, and claimed that he was the person of interest they saw driving a blue van at the mall when Adam was kidnapped. And so that alone, right, and I think it was like in some sort of drainage where they found his head. I can't remember now, but anyway, I'm just imagining that this is par for the course. If this is a wider network at play here, and Jeffrey Dahmer's not, I don't believe he was some individual lone perpetrator, right, sadistically pursuing his own proclivities, and that was it, right, ended at that. I think it's far wider as far as the implications there, and allowing this to take place, and then exploiting it and leveraging it for your own benefit, which I think is so much of what the psychopath machine is about, right? Is identify the psychopaths and then, set them on the path, put them on the path. Yeah, same with the Atlanta child murders. Exactly, Dana. And that is why I'm just like, ultimately...
guys, yeah. we got a caller. Sorry, I was trying to find this
my bad.
spot to jump in. But Shy, I don't know if you have any final thoughts. Figure we let you go and figure the caller be our last person in for today. But Shy, anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, no, I was just interested. I think you mentioned like doctors and serial killers. It was making me think about like the God complex. They be talking about some doctors get the God complex when they feel like, oh, you could save somebody, that like, oh, I'm a God over these people. And then to think about like the heads, like why would someone that thinks they're like a god might want to keep a head, and just think about like the old, like you see like old like Inca paintings or Aztec paintings where they're holding heads. You see like the shrunken skulls, stuff.
Cordella preferred to the men as his play toys, so like I guess it would make sense from that sense. Think about it like, if you broke your G.I. Joe, you're like, fuck it, I'll keep the head, whatever, it's cool, I'll put it on my shelf. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's a thing. It's something to show ownership. It's something that they dehumanize these people. They beat them viciously. They literally, as I mentioned, they documented it in an impersonal manner. So yeah, they were kind of essentially trying to become gods of sorts over these people.
Oh, for sure. And as Shai leaves us, in Operation Often, MKOFTEN, right? A study which attempted to harness the power of occultic post-hypnotic trance, right, as far as forces, occultic forces within that concept, and was possibly also one of several cover programs to hide the insidious reality of Project Monarch, is what I was reading about whenever I was studying Project Monarch, or trying to do a little bit more of a deeper dive into the credible kind of avenues where I could prove that some of this sinister abuse was being operationally let's just say implemented, and view it from that standpoint. And you never know. And like, clearly I do believe that mind control, there's a component of spiritual demonic possession being at play, like that actually being a factor, as much as people want to laugh that off at face value and not consider that as a potential reality. I mean, Spellbinder, all these secret sub projects, there were like 149 at least that we know of. You know,
I definitely want to get deeper into that with you guys, but I'll let you get to the call. I want to keep them. I appreciate you guys.
We'll see you, Shy. Appreciate you joining us. Jacob, bring in that caller. You're with Jose and Austin. Caller, what's up?
Yo, Jose, Austin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, man? Who's this?
Hey, yo, it's Marshall Banana. Just wanted to say what's up.
Hey, what's up, dude? Hell yeah, brother. See you in the chat all the time. What's up? You got any questions for us? You want to say what's up?
Just want to say what's up. Thank you guys for first, Jose, for all the OKC stuff. I feel like you're definitely, 8 or 10 hours, or like 12 even, maybe.
I think it's around over 15,
many
but
hours
yeah, a
of that,
lot.
definitely kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely kind of, I think, unlocked something where I was just like, okay, understand how. Well, I don't want to get too much in depth with it. Kind of want to keep it short and just thank you guys. And then Mr. Austin, the master of the rabbit hole. I don't know if you're familiar with my lore, Austin, but just want to thank you for the Vegas rabbit hole.
Of course, buddy. I was thinking about honestly pitching the idea to Jake soon, as far as just like, hey, it was brought to my attention we should probably rent the room in the Mandalay Bay and potentially do the show from there. Right? Like, what an amazing idea that would be.
Wait, can you rent the room? Is it available?
I was
now?
wondering. I wanted to look into it. I haven't confirmed, but that would be so epic. Right?
The 32nd floor or something.
Yeah. I would assume it's probably off limits, but who knows?
I mean, that's a pipe dream. I mean, but that would be that'd be cool.
Actually,
would be fun.
I know I have pictures of that hotel room from somebody that I knew, because I'm somewhat of a Vegas local, but what's called I knew people that were in that hotel room probably maybe 3 or 4 years before that happened, and had pictures that they were like, holy crap, same room.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know if they've blocked it off or what, or well, I mean, probably not, but probably just ripped out the carpets and
right.
I don't know, too much money to lose.
Yeah, man, for sure. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it would be a pretty interesting idea, just as far as the location of a podcast, is concerned, with the subject matter, because that alone would be pretty interesting. Just imagining kind of how it played out and reliving the crime scene in a certain way, and kind of putting into contrast and parallel the pictures of that crime scene and the ridiculous footage of the body of Stephen Paddock, which is just so hilarious to me. And the strange pools of blood, right, that don't seem to pool around any sort of remaining shells or anything, as far as all of the ammunition that he fired allegedly from that room, which is so hilarious. But and then also that it seems as if he was in rigor mortis at the time, and that he was already the blood was clotting, and that basically there's so much more. I didn't even cover that in my episode because I thought, okay, that's kind of a different conversation in a way. I wanted to really take a more alternative view of the event at large as a whole, in many ways, while also
before you dig into whether the feds dropped a 3-day-old dead body in the room.
For real though. 100%. It was almost the same reaction I had when they claimed that Jim Jones didn't actually die. Right. Yeah. And that essentially his body was replaced, and that there was a
Kirk is in Valhalla.
Yeah, exactly. He's down in Valhalla with Charlie Kirk, dude. Holy shit. Which is hilarious, by the way, that Sam Tripoli brought up on the show the other day, that the idea of JFK Jr. coming back. And I misinterpreted what he said because of the moment, in the context of the conversation, he had just talked about Charlie Kirk. And so I thought he was referencing the idea of them trotting Charlie Kirk back out for some sort of public event. Oh my God.
It is funny. It's funny, the Vegas thing. It's we're theorizing that they perhaps dropped a body in there, but it's well, now they're just at the point where they're Well, now we just fucking throw some AI guy that nods and maybe grunts a yes every now and then, and ta-da. Because think about it. When have we seen Tyler Robinson?
Oh, dude.
The only
That's
thing we have is
all-
that one little video of him going.
Right. It's all becoming
I
very
think he said yes
strange.
or something.
all the stuff that came out was AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I'm fully open to it. And at this point in time, why the fuck wouldn't they? I mean,
I found it interesting that the family, some of the members of the family broke their silence, right? And essentially came out, and I think it was his grandma that allegedly confirmed that she doesn't at all agree with the official narrative in regard to her grandson, and that basically he never liked guns, and she believes he's entirely innocent, and that there was no way he could have pulled the trigger, and so she also claimed that he had like zero violence as far as his violent tendencies whatsoever. He had none, and that the grandfather's rifle, there was allegedly that old school rifle that was
Winchester,
which is just so ridiculous, and it clearly wasn't the rifle used in the shooting itself, in my opinion, just in terms of what I know as far as Lee Harvey Oswald and the investigation into the Carcano rifle, like that alone, like shut up. We've seen this narrative, and it's so clearly a false misdirection in order to appease public perception. And yes, she said like one last thing, I believe. She said that it wasn't, apparently the grandfather didn't even own that rifle. It was another aspect that she was claiming, that he didn't even own any guns whatsoever. And so if that's true, then that is a huge hole in the narrative as far as just the official FBI presentation in regard to the evidence and how it's been presented to the public as well. So who knows? I'm just saying that it's worthwhile and remaining very skeptical as far as Tyler Robinson and any of the details surrounding him personally. I'm starting to begin to wonder.
Need at least a proof of life here, bud.
Hey, man, not only that, I'm beginning to wonder how many of these personalities are almost manufactured out of whole cloth, even if they do trigger a Manchurian programmed candidate of some kind in a green light go operation, because he's already had the prior programming and been placed in the induced into the hypnotic trance and given the perfect recipe of the chemical substances required to kind of urge his subconscious mind into playing out this dreamlike state where they commit such just extraordinary levels of violence, right? And that alone, I feel like there has to be a separation from reality, right? Like there has to be. It almost has to feel like a video game in a way, right? And that has to also be maybe a factor into making diagrams of the schools through and various priority target locations that some of these mass shooters will perform in their kind of lead up to the events. And I'm only really directly referencing Eric and Dylan in Columbine, recreating the Columbine High School diagram in a Doom, WAD level, right, that they had customized.
Yeah, the level, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, I'm not saying that kids don't naturally create things, within those custom sandbox, just kind of video game outlets, something that they already know. I'm not rejecting that is something that might genuinely occur organically, but it's still very strange and feels like it would help reinforce layers of programming at a certain level. And also operationally speaking, when you're on the ground at the actual location and carrying out the violent false flag, emotion arousing, kind of mass casualty event. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think at this point, and I'm very much under the impression that obviously putting your child in public school whatsoever is basically the equivalent of voluntarily placing your child into state custody, and I think that's how I'm not at all, and I'm not judging people for doing what they have to do in certain contexts or whatever the case may be. If you've had a good experience with the schooling system with your children, you're one of the lucky ones. Right, honestly, is how I feel, and I'm beginning to realize this is happening more and more often, and even in the context of Columbine itself, this very year, there was a major scandal in terms of grooming a child, and then before I mention any of the details in regard to that, there's this crazy story I've been trying to find a chance to mention to you, Jose, just recently, as far as this Kentucky judge.
Well, before we, real quick, Austin, before we do that, we should probably let the caller go so we don't keep him hostage. Marshall, we appreciate it. If you have anything else to add, I feel like we probably should just let you go. We appreciate you calling in. Anything else you got to add to the conversation before we let you go? And I figure we'll kind of start to bring this to a close.
Yeah. The only thing I would add, I definitely got to watch your series with Toad that you just dropped. Or I got to promote that for you. Or that's something to watch. And then Austin, the only thing I got to add is on the Vegas shooting. The only thing that's kind of interesting that I never seen anybody mention is that right after that happened, or pretty much, I think probably the day after, maybe if not hours after that happened, Trump kind of released a tweet where it was it was a miracle what happened that night, or something to that extent, where he was oh, it was a miracle that it had, or that basically something happened that we never got the juice or the meat and potatoes on. So I don't know. That was just something interesting that I've seen that nobody's ever kind of mentioned, where it's just okay, Trump knew something. And it just kind of implied that, yeah.
The level of connection to Adelson.
I mean, I'm not political at all, but.
By the way, I think we have a little bit of delay here. That's what we're dealing with, so you gotta give him time.
Yeah.
All right, caller, we'll let you go. We appreciate you joining us.
I'll let you guys run with it, man. Yeah.
Right, you have a good one, bud. Call in again sometime.
Have a great night, guys.
All right, you too. See you,
brother.
Bud. All right, bye.
Yeah.
Austin, what we're sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off, but I felt bad making him sit there and listen. You bring it to, I totally forgot what you're some pedophile, but then again, that doesn't narrow it down with this show at all. Right. So I forgot you wanted to talk about the details of that.
Yeah, for sure. But I also want to briefly mention just something that I was hoping to talk to you about at some point.
I thought that was the pedophiles, but go on.
Well, that is insane as far as the connection to Columbine. And man, what the fuck? How are we still having major scandals produced from this high school that was so clearly a part of some sort of modern Gladio operation? And seemingly for decades prior, were very much effectively, conditioning the children at this very school to potentially become radicalized. And if you remember that ridiculous psychiatrist who helped invent some of the very methods that they implemented within the death education program at Columbine, was saying that, no, man, this has been a huge failure. He was blowing the whistle, claiming that obviously it hasn't had any positive effect on students who already seem to possess these just more radical or violent tendencies or character defects of some kind. But what it is doing successfully is apparently legitimately radicalizing individual students who had no prior character or just behavioral traits that fit these violent tendencies. And so it seemed to be some sort of a curriculum of radicalization that was being facilitated at Columbine. So it doesn't at all surprise me that there's still strange occurrences happening at this school specifically. But right before I detail that, I just wanted to mention to you that this Kentucky judge case that I saw go public within the past couple weeks, where a Kentucky judge was killed by a sheriff for allegedly running a courthouse like what he said, he was running the courthouse like a brothel.
Dude, we talked about this.
We talked about this?
Yeah. But go ahead and tell the audience so we're not like.
I brought this up prior.
We've talked about this. We had a good long conversation about it.
God damn it, dude. I don't know if I can remember that at all. But
you can tell for the purpose of just, I don't know, maybe give a summation for the audience. I'm sure they'll maybe jog their memory, but we definitely talked about this on the show.
I was wondering how I haven't discussed this with you. But okay, so that's hilarious. But at the same time, we're talking about trading sexual favors, right?
Yeah.
And hosting twisted parties, right? For a lot of these victim witnesses were claiming. And so again, it's just like, my God, talk about local corruption and just at the most degenerate level you can even imagine. But it runs perfectly in parallel with that of this ridiculous Columbine case, in my opinion, just because it goes to prove how much you should not trust any sort of, just anyone who is involved with the state at any level, honestly, and let alone the ridiculous. I don't know about your experience, but my personal experience with teachers as a young person, I mean, these people were very much the lowest level of the barrel in terms of what they had to offer.
Unimpressive,
yeah, very unimpressive. And I think that's not about this ridiculous political or politicized narrative that is used as a football politically in terms of the wages of teachers and things of that nature. I just think there's a much more simple conclusion that you can come to. But anyway, obviously, I despise public school. I think the public school system is kind of the crux of many of our problems in terms of the social engineering aspect of the current power paradigm. And so I will end with this, and that is that in February of this year, we're talking a legitimate conspiracy within the Columbine High School, where the Colorado School District itself helped a student declare herself as homeless before moving in with a teacher who was grooming her for years prior as a teacher at Columbine High School. And this is so insane because you have parents who were kept in the dark, right? And we're talking administrators in the school district being forced to apologize to the parents after the fact. And it seems as if it was, according to this federal form, these school officials who were entirely involved in helping with not only facilitating this strange occurrence of grooming the child and setting them up to file the federal forms, but also to keep it outside of the parents' scope of understanding whatsoever, keep them in the dark. And so they hid this successfully from her parents so she could then move in with this teacher. And so I guess this is so apparently this is even a gay story is what I'm beginning to find out, right? And there was some sort of a transitioning aspect that was applied in some sort of way, but it seems as if it was a female teacher named Leanne Kearney. And this is a female teacher who groomed a young girl to become a lesbian, and then basically to file a federal form where she could declare herself as homeless and then move with her, who had just recently moved to California, where she had found a legal loophole within the state, sort of the state laws in California, where without parental consent at 17, you are allowed to potentially, if you're declared as homeless, you're allowed to move in with anyone you so choose, including some sort of strange predator that has been grooming you for this very purpose. And so that alone goes to show how much these avenues are available and ready, as far as just in terms of these predators exploiting them and leveraging them to their own benefit. But then the ultimate conclusion here is that you have all of these red flags that had been raised, prior to this even going public and being made public in any way. And that was that, again, you have members of the school administration and the school administrative staff who were helping facilitate this federal declaration and the forms being filed by the child and keeping it from the parents all the while. And so then it just, once more, it reinforces what we already know, but that is, just beware of what kind of diabolical threats truly face you and your children, and that might come in the form, man. There was just some local dude that I grew up in the neighborhood I grew up in Northwest Arkansas. There was just some local guy known as the Maze Man who would go around in the local town and try and talk to kids and show them mazes, right, that he had made personally at his own home. And he would especially go around during Halloween. And he would go to all the candy giving events, and he would try and isolate the children off to themselves, and then basically groom them. And I was visiting my grandparents when I was real young, and they were in hospice basically at this time, and there was right around Halloween, and this fucking guy, the Maze Man, that all the kids knew him, dude, as the Maze Man, and he would go to the local baseball, the little league baseball field, and things of that nature. And so it turns out. So he brings me over, he's talking to me, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm willing to talk to whoever. I'm just a dumb kid, naive as hell. And
Austin, it's not your fault. It's not your fault, Austin.
Dude, I'm just, my aunt, man. Luckily, my aunt's an amazing woman, and she saw me, and she ran over and grabbed me, and she took me to the side and said, Austin, don't ever talk to that guy, and don't talk to him alone, especially. Right. And I had no idea what she was talking about until years later when they told me that this guy had just gotten out of jail for molesting a child, and had prior to this, legitimately been a child predator. So this is, nothing new, man. But
story you tell yourself for not being cute enough.
yeah, exactly. Man, what's wrong with me? No, but honestly, the only reason I mention it is because imagine if you have connections to, maybe you're just a member of the local chapter of the Freemasonic society in the area, and you think it's just a drinking club or whatever, but yet there are members within that have these sadistic proclivities, and therefore sow themselves into inner circles, and are given this kind of blank check and free reign to abuse, and it's just an unfortunate kind of playbook that we've seen so very often recycled. And I will say that in hindsight, I cannot believe that even in the area that I grew up in, it was so prominent, and so just, so very often and frequent. But anyway, I guess we can honestly
almost
end it
at 2
with
hours.
that.
Yeah. All right, Austin, where can people find you at? We're almost at 2 hours. It's been a fun episode. Be sure to call in, guys. Think about what you want to talk about next time. Ask some questions. Think we might try to see if we can't get a guest for next week. But also send out guest suggestions if you want to see it happen. Make it happen. Holler out whoever that person is. Kurt Metzger. Say, hey, go on their show online and tag us in it. And that's how you make these things happen. We'll try to follow up on the History Homos people here later. They'd be a great addition to any episode. But Austin, where can we find you? Oh yeah, and we're going to be tomorrow. We're continuing our Dutroux series. I dropped a little early that one, so the part 5 is already out. We'll be doing part 6 tomorrow, I think. So the patrons, you guys will get that. The poors, you'll have to wait, but you can go watch part 5. It's out now. But Austin, where can people find you at?
Hell yeah, buddy. All right, guys, you already know best place to support me is the Underclass Podcast, or patreon.com/the Underclass Podcast. And then, I think episode 34 just dropped of whatever this is. So check that one out. We did like a little over 2 hours or something. So, I enjoyed that one. But beyond that, guys, just, I'm definitely, I'll be doing, not only am I doing Dutroux, the Dutroux case tomorrow, I think I'm hanging out with the Jackman brothers to talk Columbine on Thursday. And then on Friday, I think we're going to go Columbine full schizo mode with JJ. So that'll be kind of fun as well. So
Nice.
Check all of that out, and nothing but love. I appreciate all of you. You know this.
Oh yeah! For those who want to support what I'm doing, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers. You can also find it on Twitter @TowerGangJose. If If you want to support the show in the best way you can do that with money over at patreon.com/nowayjose2020. You got the QR code up there if you like that. At the $2 level, that's the lowest level. You get all sorts of perks. You get early episodes. We usually do about 1 to 2 a week. Keep about 4 behind the paywall at any given time. Typically, you get access to the Telegram. You get access to the ad-free RSS feed. You also get access to the pre-show and the post-show, and you also get access to the video calls on this show right here, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to join us. Call in. Highest Level is my sponsors, and I give them a shout-out every episode. It's a big thank you for everything they do. I have my previous co-hosts on Tower Gang, at Leonard Toad, also at Abrogate These, at ZLVRECK, at _Infinite Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at Jolly Klubo, big fan of the show, Tormay, at Wayne Tacos, 1-800-CARS for kids, no free lunch, Jack and Mark Vestibule. And with that, guys, we're out of here. Love you all. We'll see you next Tuesday. And don't forget, I have my daily show Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, The Morning Dump on the No Way Jose podcast, YouTube, Rumble, everywhere. It's all in the same place. So go check it out. Hang out with me. I'll be there tomorrow. I'll have Ken Silva with me tomorrow morning. And then we'll be back to solo episodes after that. But with that, guys, we're out of here. Hang out. For the patrons, we'll hang out with you guys in the post show. And more of y'all poor should start hanging out there with us. We love you all. Bye-bye.